Namo Majoshi, Namo Zoshis, Namo Namang Sinyazo, Namo Majoshi, Namo Zoshis, Namo Shiyazo. 知道这里从哪来，讲究么都当你告诉谁，那你是口哪里？介绍你们多吧，说知道这里从哪来，讲究么都介绍你多吧，说知道这里从哪来，讲究么都当你告诉谁，那最近知道。Allah benci sange doba Shin Remin Gyojin Doga Rikal Shini Jin Bashi Saki Shinobi Jewai Rumi Nanda Shinga Jewai So Nida Kurina Sampeda Yadaya
Please adjust your sitting posture according to 7 meditative postures of our channel. I think all sentient beings have been my mothers. All sentient beings have been my mothers, not just once, but for numberless times. They are as kind as my mothers in this life. Even though all kind mothers sentient beings want happiness and do not want even a small suffering, however, due to engaging wrongly in the plagues of adoptions and abandonment, they do not experience any happiness, but suffering. In our minds, sincerely generate loving kindness towards all and mother sentient beings, thinking, how nice it would be if all kind mother sentient beings had excellent happiness and the causes of happiness, that is virtue. May all kind mother sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. Of course, all kind mother sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
One minute.
Next, we generate compassion towards all suffering mother sentient beings, thinking, how nice it would be if the bodies of all suffering mother sentient beings, free from all classes discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as physical pain, suffering, sickness, and coarse and subtle problems caused by all elements. May the bodies of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from all classes discordant with accomplishing virtue. Or free the bodies of all suffering mother sentient beings, all classes discordant discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. How nice it would be if the minds of all Supreme Mother sentient beings, free from all classes, discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as mental suffering, fear, and all negative, coarse, and subtle discursive thoughts. May the minds of all suffering Mother sentient beings be free from all classes, discordant with accomplishing virtue. Or free the minds of all suffering Mother sentient beings from all classes, discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
你就是我这个弟弟就我的，我这个是我经我唱了，唱到了这个地方，然后这些我到底叫我的心，我们来心里的是，这个不行。
How nice it would be if the speech of all suffering Mother sentient beings are free from all classes, discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as all coarse and subtle negative speech and telling lies. May the speech of all suffering Mother sentient beings be free from all classes, discordant with accomplishing virtue. Oh, free the speech of all suffering Mother sentient beings from all classes, discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
我是啊，没去做，有的这个，我在心我来心的，
How nice it would be if all kind Mother sentient beings were free from all sufferings. All Mother sentient beings were free from suffering and the causes of suffering, that is non-virtue. May all Mother sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Now free all Mother sentient beings from suffering and the causes of suffering. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
我那以前把那个螺丝给，我就是我那个，我是我那个不是的，你让了东西在地下是一样的，是一些我那我别的都是那别的，是那样的，关键就是手机公司我想可以很结果是。
Next, we generate bodhicitta. First, we ask ourselves, we should take on the responsibility to free all Mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and its offerings. I should take on the responsibility to free all Mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of awareness. Even though I should take on the responsibility, I do not have the abilities to do so now. Who has the abilities? Those who have achieved perfectly complete enlightenment have the abilities to do so. For the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means, I will achieve the precious state of enlightenment.
Antes de só de cobrar para chão, essa coisa bate. Não me liga para isso. Gente, verdade. Não sei não, para daí tipo, eu tenho que dizer, compartilhando aqui
As we generate all-encompassing yoga mind, the aspiring conventional bodhicitta that thinks, for the sake of all mothers and sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. These transform into a complete mundis at one stop. The no bodhicitta, that is one's mind becoming in one taste with emptiness, the lack of inherent existence, is transformed into a white five-pronged vajra on top of the mundis.
Isso dá uma coisa não é discutida até quando é uma coisa que pode sabe são páginas.
As we meditate on the meaning of emptiness for a short while, that I exist neither intrinsically one way nor intrinsically different from the aggregates. Thus, I am empty of inherent existence.
Onde estava religião assim eu gosto de isso a carne que estava indo isso pode depender de se tu gosta de nada e vai chegar aqui a gente vai sentar então me chega lá ou se vai ir no nosso baixo você essa coisa chega de que sentido que deu a tua vida não 20 anos sabe não sei a coisa vai lá e essa coisa de viver até
As I mentioned, it is important and it is powerful and it is beneficial to join other roots of virtue that we perform through our true laws with the practice of six actions. Thus, to conjoin these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma with the practice of six actions, it is as follows. The first one is generosity. The nature of generosity is the intentions of giving. Thus, these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma is to pacify the suffering and to achieve the happiness of all sentient beings. Next is morality. The nature of morality is a mind of abandonment. When I listen to, contemplate, and meditate on the Dharma, I will properly abandon my physical and verbal negativities so that they do not manifest in these 2 hours.
有时候讲到这个事情，随便我是蛮放心。那时候我是基本上是以前呢，刚才这边搞这个比当地的水多去，比当地的水多去多一点。也应该是那时候我是去给他的，那水不行，那是有的是。
Next is patience. The nature of patience is an undisturbed mind. I will patiently accept any suffering or hardships that occur when I listen, any physical or mental hardships that occur when I listen to, contemplate, and meditate on the Dharma. Next is joyous effort. Joyous effort is a mind that takes delight in virtue. I will take delight in the virtue of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma. Next one is concentration. The nature of concentration is a mind that single-pointedly focuses on any virtuous object. I will single-pointedly focus my mind on an intended object when I listen to, contemplate, and meditate on the Dharma, and not get influenced by discursive thoughts and distractions. Last one is wisdom. Wisdom is an awareness that thoroughly distinguishes phenomena. I will fully and correctly understand the words and meanings of the Dharma that I listen to, contemplate, and meditate on. Set a motivation. For the sake of all mothers and sentient beings, by all means, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. For this purpose, I will listen to the holy teachings and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings. So today we are going to talk about the 9 mental abidings, or 9 mental stages. So whoever are doing meditations or doing a concentration practice, then you can check against, you can check your practice against this measurement or against these 9 mental stages, then you will know where you're at.
是不得这么见到这个机会，我那地方也见到了可以，我那地方什么那当我谁当我的去说。
So the stages of shamatha that arise in reliance upon it, this has 3 points. 2 stages of shamatha that arise. The method for accomplishing them by means of the 6 powers. So 6 powers, we are going to talk about it later, and how they involve the 4 types of attentions. So these regarding the 4 attentions, so I will explain it later as well. Today, so I will first start with the actual stages of shamatha, which is the 9 mental abidings. So first I will talk about the first stage or first mental state.
因为你当过的，当过当你的就过时候，那个是，所以过到我这个呢，如果是过了，你过的时候过了什么当地方，第二个地方，要去过的。那对了，什么当地的看到，谁许多去了，怕银行头上的怕大的话，谁许多去了，银行头怕高的，那能的把，你过得了吧？是这就跟那个定义些，定义几多，定义，定义的了，很大的是。因为你跟着我，因为你这拿我的多，因为你跟我那个说，是呢，是让你跟我是呢，那同样我说了，同样我讲解，同样我做的，那你不得来看的，原来上了我们谁不要把业务的把你谁能的去对吧？你去过了，谁能的明白的了，这些都那个定义去，因为定义了，大不了，我就是说，因为。
So the actual stages of shamatha that arise, the first has 9 points. Placing the mind or mental placement, which is the first mental state or first mental states or first mental abidings. So placing the mind or mental placement on something is to draw the mind away from all external objects and direct it toward the object within. So we use an example that we always talk about, and it's very common, which is the Buddha's image. So when we first start the concentration practice, so we draw our mind inwards, and then focus our mind on the object of observations, which is the Buddha's image. So without distracted to external objects. So we draw our mind inwards from those external objects and then focus on the object of observation, which is Buddha's image, and that is concentration.
那你当不了，谁里当不的？那我就对不了，我是你把它上了当的，我是那个的，你把它上了自己都对不得了，打上了当的，就是那个样子。因为谁来看的？啊，他对不起，我说我见不了两个店，那么经常他都做嘛的时候，那个样子。对的晓得，我说面都变得两个不把东西了，面都变两边了，两边的面都变了，我就那个。我去了，我出嘛，就是顶多的时候，两边
没多少，
没多地方，没多地方，这东西啊，东西，让不，我的，那时候不得，我是没多块那个的，他们那这给你这个晚上，你不点嘛的时候，你拿起来我说，不是你把那他顶着过来，什么都搞的，那我说他，是的，他那一个样7天，那一个钱。这根本今年呢，这个电话都会引过来说，你到这个两个国王是引过来，也是我打的，对吧？但是我打起来，我打不起来呢。
So first we try to focus our mind on the Buddha's image, right? So however, at the beginning, our mind will be like this. Our mind cannot stay on the objects even for 1 or 2 minutes. So we will notice that our mind always gets towards external objects, and then we realize it, then we pull it back. So our mind at this stage then will be like bees that stays on the flowers. So and you will realize that when the bees, when it comes to a garden, for example, the bees will stay on the flowers for a while, then move to another flowers, then go to another flowers. So our mind at the beginning is like this. It's like a bees that will not stay on the flowers for a long time. So it is difficult to level up stability at the very beginning. So you can track your concentrations and whether your concentration is decent.
那个是是说拉嘛公巴一样，那新年公巴一样的话，公巴在等待听的是吧？你还是点么的，通过公别干了看的，而且干嘛生活没有嘛的看的，这个基本的，啊，这个基本的，干嘛你送，记住说点不了，说话对的人往上，我们也好，是吧？你看，说的两件问题呢，说当把这个说哪里，说把目的。然后是求自我把业了去，他做的业呢，这说的，这是刚才看到，两个很高就是的，对嘛？那么把的确那干嘛说什么的，把这点嘛，这个差不多对吧？对嘛对吧？这种看的这个当我们说那里边的话，谁讲里边差不多啊？
So at first, we train our mind focusing on your observation, whether it's a Buddha's image, whether it's on our Lama, or whether it's to cultivate calm abiding. Then at first, when we train our mind is very unstable, that it cannot stay on objects for a long time. So most probably, our mind can only stays on the objects for 2 or 3 minutes. Probably longer, it will be like 3-4 minutes. So it does a let's say at the beginning, then it will be like this. We cannot stay on the objects for a long time. So and even then, when we realize that our mind is distracted, then we try to pull our mind back to the object of observations. Then you will realize that after a while, then it will distract again.
那个你看这种什么报什么这个，其他方面都是利益不多，这个这种多啊，现在我的嘛，多啊，很多是吧？我那是那个那写的我们写的，那那么讲呢，这边不是有多啊，我写的，那么讲的可能是那看到人家的，都挺多个的，我是写的呗，过了你嘛都得，你个搞起不来。那说说两家问题呢？把这两家结巴起来，把这两家拆了，他给呢，谁也不能给搞大的看，如果是说说，结巴给上网单，他说说给，那么呢，就是那样式样式，那不啦，我当的，把这个问题呢，还搞的结果就是，这个我不晓得也是别个是，特别多是吧？多是第一个特别多的也是吧？特别多是我感觉我是呢。这个是被谁爹嘛？这里两个问题，哪里？就是两个always say that we know this, how this, now that we know this. 的确，啊，你就有this。那这样，两个我看的，就把这我记得你跟我讲的那是他们立马的话，这个结果就这个那个。第一个是布置了特别多，这个是什么？你是的，你应该是哪里嘛不去跳舞的是吧？中国的哪里也不去，目前也不去，你是哪里到的啊？哪里到点这问题？是的嘛？对，我你估计也是我。那第二个布置当中特别多是这点我也是，特别多不要给你这些呢，有些条件我那特别多的，你全部越多，哇，最多是吧？
Very good.
Sì, non è di due papi, senti le due sai, non è di due papi, se ne tambo shi wa, di kawa, di ya bu yin ci di to de, yes, di ya bu yin.
So later we are going to talk about the 6 hours, right? So however, I find it convenient to conjoin it and explain as well. So later we are going to talk about it separately as well. So now to conjoin with the 6 hours during the first mental state, mental placement. In the first hour we need to rely on the first power, which is the power of hearing. So power of hearing basically it refers to hearing, listening or hearing or listen to the important points on how to focus our mind on the
Sorry,
objects of
Ken.
observations. So after
Ken,
we
sorry.
after listening,
Your side is very unclear.
oh, 第四部古人成长，你做其實係啲出看出來是，我嗱睇啲三上嚟講嘅，其實係啲人我哋，how about now? Hello? Hello?
Now is can you continue few sentences?
Then you let me know, yeah, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah. So I start from the beginning. So basically, later we're going to talk about the 6 powers, but I also find it convenient to talk about this 9 mental state conjoining with the 6 powers as well. So during the first mental state, which is mental placement, then we need to rely on the power of hearing. So we need to hear or listen to the instruction on how to focus our mind on the object of observations. Then after listening to it, then we apply the instructions. So at this point, because your mind is unable to stay on the objects for a long time, then probably only stay for 1 or 2 minutes before we get distracted, right? So at that point of time, so you need to continue to observe the object of observation, think about the object of observations, and then also ask lamas or one's teacher on how to focus your mind on the object of observations. Like, for example, you ask a question, my mind is distracted to this object, and what should I do? Then what is the fault, and etc. So basically, you think of the instructions given by the Lama on how to focus your mind on the objects of observations. So in reliance on the power of hearing, then this power of then we we place our mind on the object of observations. So this power of hearing is the cause for the first mental state, mental placement.
だとすればは、多分この本がですが、まあ、結局は、como asal pangkal tapi masuk lebih aja, so kita lebih dengar sih, yang tu, orang ada lebih aja, kita jadi buat apa sia, kali kontak kali itu sudah, ni kali itu semua masih boleh, masih boleh itu tidak kira kali itu, so apa ni bukan setiap ini, bisa kamu kanda, apa yang masih yang itu, wah, udah tomat.
So that is at the beginning stage when we do meditations. Then we ask Lama, and then we receive instructions from Lama. Then we think about the instructions given by Lama on how to do meditations. Then we also examine our meditations ourselves, and then after clearly receive the instructions from Lama, then we need to apply it in our meditations, or even after when something arises in our mind, or when an obstacle arises in our mind, then what antidotes to be applied, for example. And the second concentration is continuous placement. So you should treat all these 9 mental abidings as concentration. So the first concentration refers to placing the mind or mental placement, right? And the second type of concentration is continuous placement. So continuous placement is different from the first mental state, mental placement. So here you can see the words continuous. So continuous has the, in general, when we use the word, this word here in Tibetan can be translated as length or durations. Then usually we will use this word, say for a long time, for a short time, for example. So then in this context, then it's translated as continuous placement. So continuous placement means that unlike the first mental state, mental placement. So during the first mental state, we can, for example, can only focus our mind on the object of observation for only 1 or 2 minutes, for example, without getting this, without distractions. When we proceed to the second mental state, continuous placement, we can, our mind can stay on the objects for a longer time. Like for example, you used to stay on the objects of observation for 1 to 2 minutes. Now at this stage, then you can stay on the object of observation for 3 to 4 minutes, for example.
Oh, that take us on the Jesus to go to Jesus, but you know, everything, some politics, somebody, that's all now. I'm not ready to go to work. That take us some song, so don't be bad. Because people were correct. Somebody did a big like somebody else. The company to what was big somebody money to actually the people by principle. You know what the Mandela, no matter the Mandela or Mandela. That become a significant it to but some people are doing yes. What don't wait to somebody did somebody normally somebody comes somebody is there with them what somebody with him what you do sometimes somebody would get to the there what really somebody the thing is that something is what.
So the second mental state, continuous placement, it arises independent on the power of thinking. So which is the second power among the 6 powers. The first power is the power of hearing, right? So we need to depend on the power of hearing in order to develop the mental placement, the first mental states. Then at that point of time, we need to listen to instructions on how to meditate or how to focus our mind on the objects of observations. So then we put effort into it. So then when we come to proceed to the second mental state, continuous placement. So we need to depend on the power of thinking. So we need to be very careful with our mind. So at this point of time, we are more careful with our mind. So you think about the instructions and etc. How to focus our mind steadily on the object of observations, how to effort and etc. How to apply antidotes and etc. So in dependence on the power of thinking, then we develop the second mental state, which is continuous placement.
The gene to the child into the become so she did. The young did what that someone come so she was say why I did it. Come on, you saw on the same way, but you would do the young child. That's what the gene was there. Wow.
Yeah, so if we are able to focus our mind on the objects of observation without distraction for 3 or 4 minutes, for example, then at that point of time, then we have developed much improvement on the concentration practice.
That's somebody like that. That's somebody seems like looking at the wow. I mean, really, that's anything like that.
Then the third mental state is patchy placement or patch placement.
那那点就我说我是对的，他是关心给我们，我说是说给对头的问题，对头的问题呢，有的地方我们因为可能是很多地方，有的地方是欠的，是吧？我说欠的话，那么就是有的地方是欠的多吧，我也好说，他后边也有问题，我们发生关系呢，然后地方是地方是可以解决，然后是这个其他，这样子，就是说。那个就话是，然后现在，你看，他修了的，有时候就顾不了，那样的话修的话，修了的，我修过的时候，那是顾不了，现在好多嘛是这个东西，这个就是说，这个在那些我在不来啥，那些不来啥，修呢我一个完全，这是这个东西。
So during the third mental state, which is patchy placement or patch placement, so then it is something like this. So you're using the word for patchy placement, right? So it's like your clothes, then it's there, or there is a hole there. Then you put a piece, then you paste, you patch another piece of cloth on it, cover the hole. So then similarly, during this stage, your mind focus on the objects of observations. Then when it gets distracted, then you're able to bring it back to the objects of observations. So that's why it's called patchy placement.
哦，我是对这个比较的，大的我觉得是大看多嘛是不嘛，大就是那个大的时间大人去罗，大我这个电视剧，大不能呢，我这个去电视片，电视六罗，我个现在发生的这个电视片，电视第二站，我是电视六罗啊，我电脑里，那是片哪个只顾哪个是电脑。现在你把那些是属于好的，体育的好的，马上你把它是那个是你把它吃不住嘛？电脑是讲，看可以，你在视频书店的东西，是吧？电脑里我对象，是吧？电脑里刚才现在你把那个吃不住嘛？我这个习惯，但是看什么的话，那是这个那个这种啊，那我是看不完的。过来的话，就比如你说的在哪个地方发生事情，当时都觉得很有问题。类似，我也是对这个想，那些人我都知道，他也干了，我对好空气，对好空马上的，你把那是，你看那么哪一次不多去，也行啊。
是别人的情侣都可能 Yeah. So then it's like how say we tie the rope on the mouth of the horse. So when we ride a horse, then how say we can pull the rope in order to guide or bring the rope, or bring the horse to the directions that we want, the directions we want. So otherwise, then you might go up. When it goes other way, then we pull the rope. Then we will be able to how say to pull the horse and then go in the directions we want. So similarly, at this point of time, when our mind is distracted, then we are able to bring it back to the object of observations.
那这个的话是因为松巴的是吧？因为松巴的话是，因为他你把它他夜晚的人，搞的这个搞的多少是没看光，就是
另外的，
没看光，夜晚的路，我因为松巴，因为松巴的话是。你看第一情况，夜里第一情况是什么？是吧？第一情况是什么？基本常常的夜里第二个呢，就是别种，一般是那个来啥的，然后来啥，说白话说白了嘛，就前面嘛，就练习搞了，练出来的看体的，也不说的，练习搞了了，是吧？什么你搞了来啥
？Yeah. So if we develop the third mental state, which is patchy placement, then actually we're develop because our concentration practice is quite good already. So, and if we were to compare the time we get distracted and the time we stay on the objects of observations, so distraction versus stability during third mental state, so the stability I think is slightly longer, and the durations that we get distracted is slightly lesser. So even if our mind is distracted, then we are able to recognize it, then we're able to bring it way back to the object of observation.
っていうか、まあ、これってね、まあ、は、不可能就完了，每一点都就完了是。但现在判定的地方，它整个是呢是没办法是不完的整理生活啊，这的整理是嘛，是吧？你个是那个整理多的我说，对吧？这个是吧？不可能不可能整理多的很大，谁能把它那是过去，有说过去。
So during the third mental state, petri placement, we need to rely on the power of mindfulness. So the third power is power of mindfulness. So in reliance on this power of mindfulness, we are able to tie our mind to the object of observation, or we are able to bring our mind back to the object of observations.
你搞的那个心理风暴的那个，但是呢，你把这个把创的也是故意让我这个这个的那个经历是我嘛，这不能去修正，这不能不去这个的，是吧？现在这个你要看到这个这个是不是人？这个要是个不必就能够接触的话，就是我这个经历是这个，我听说的这个经历呀，然后生活上的这个去我才要以上。
So even though on the third mental state, we need to develop the third mental state in reliance on the power of mindfulness, and mindfulness does exist in the previous two mental states as well. However, at this particular mental state, placement, we need to develop a stronger force of mindfulness. So because at this point of time, our mind can stay longer on the object of observation, right? So we need to develop a stronger power of mindfulness, a stronger mindfulness.
你为什么你看当然是别的没有去对，那么是前半的人都给我们动起去那个前半是吧？前半的对，前半的话，前半的你会出去容易，是吧？那个是你习惯了，前半的搞得多那点，别人动起来，是你习惯了，前半别人动起来，是吧？那是前半的动起，动不起就谁的你把它学习多了，前半的你们现在那个那点时间太多了嘛，是吧？是吧？ 我这看不，如果是另外一句话说的，也不休息这个概念，但是因为是那个别的人不休息了。
So when we come to the fourth mental state, which is called close placement, at this point of time, we need to depend on the power of mindfulness as well. So power of mindfulness, there are different levels of power of mindfulness. So some are stronger power and some are lesser power. Here, we need to develop a mindfulness that is stronger than the previous state. So with that, in dependence on this strong power of mindfulness, then our mind stays on the objects on the observations, or the mind is tied to the objects of observations.
那是你什么都知道啊？那是你习惯了吧？那是习惯了吧？
对，习惯。
那习惯你往有嘛是？你往有嘛？往有嘛的话，当然的，那全部是这个的话，全部是习惯往有嘛是吧？
啊，懂得。你拉长一点，对对。什么习惯那得全部都集中有的话，那得全部都切话的话，得没办法得说过的。
连毕竟对，这个做经济是什么？对吧？那个多的希望的话，你能看到你闭着的呢，修图嘛也是，这个呢全部都是有的，经济的习惯呢，你不用往的 必须得买的时候，这个这个成都这个嘛，谁你把这个不的时候，是吧？你经济有问题啊，你必须要去买的时候，你经济来问题，那这个出来才好的。
Yeah, so when we develop a strong power of mindfulness, so even if laxity or excitement arrives, even there is a laxity or excitement, then we are, because of this strong power of mindfulness, we are able to, bring it back to the object of observation without losing our object of observation. We are able to bring it back. So not only that we do not lose our object of observation, we are able to bring it back, bring our mind back on the object of observation.
这是个，刚才这个是话，这个我说这个是对心理准备的那个是你这个没学啊，然后去看看这个做情况是这个说的，你看的你这个没学的，那是心理这个那个那个对，那个什么你话是啥？那时候嘛，你这个还是把学的，那时候嘛没学，那个基础嘛没学是吧？看看，他对你的没学那些，那是不能说的话说，那个怎么说？你个心就啥嘛？然后你这个的熟悉的话，那个说，这个什么不可能的经验说对吧？你对没学的现在不你搞你几个什么的，心理上这样子，你也是这个什么心理上是不是觉得也是？这心理如果吓过来，心理过程如果吓过来，有这的话就麻烦了，是吧？我说心理做了这个，这个心理把2年要研究出来的，这个成功的时候，2年研究出来。
Yeah, so when we develop a strong mindfulness, then even if there is slight laxity or excitement arises, then it will not be able to cause such harm to the extent that we lose our object of observations. It will not be able to cause harm that we lose our object of observations. So when our mindfulness focusing or tied our mind to the object of observation, our vigilance also check or stand guards and check whether our mind get distracted or not, whether there is any arising of laxity or excitement or not. So if there is any arising of laxity or excitement, then this vigilance notice it, recognize it, and then ask the mindfulness to tie your mind to the object of observations. So this vigilance recognize it, and then our mindfulness will tie our mind to the object of observation, so that we will be able to our mind will be able to stay on the object of observation again and again.
咱们的这个的话，我说心理习惯的话，心理习惯的话，我就是心理习惯的感觉的呢，心理我们这个嘛的是吧？你看，一个什么，就是这个嘛，这个的话说，心理一过来，这把修这个两步这个一个了嘛，都搞一过去呢，你那心里头，什么，心理实际了个心理一过来。你从定的实际的过来心理中的，他解决过来什么？现在心理的过来分类这个是，这个是过来分类叫是说，这里的实际的对心理现在解决是什么？心理有没有？我对心理有的这关键我他妈变出来些，你心理都清楚的也是吧？这个我那是你谁过实际的心理现在解决过来的变出来，当然是常常的。然后跑完了，然后把它不是，当然了，我的你我蛮喜欢，这个是吧？这个是经历就需求嘛，都计划这个，这个是心理的多样那个是，心理多的也是我的话，我心理实际的心理比较的也是，今天都去中国的心理的他可能哪个的也是。
So before this fourth mental state, when we focus our mind on the object of observations, and sometimes our mind, sometimes vigilance also checks our mind, right? Sometimes our mind get distracted. When we check our mind, our mind loses a little bit on the object of observations. So, however, when we reach the fourth mental states, because of the strong mindfulness, our mind can stay on the objects of observations, and one part of our mind, the vigilance is working. So vigilance is working, in one part of our mind. So a part of it, then this vigilance is checking or stand guarding, check whether is there any laxity or excitement or not. So so at that point of time, the power of vigilance also has already developed. So it also become much stronger than previous mental states.
当我们就是按照心理学我说话，当我把多写的对吧？我把多写，当我把多写吧，另外把多写的什么写我。
And the fifth mental state is aiming.
当我把多写的什么做的东西，我真是说也是多，我。
So we develop the fifth mental states in reliance on the power of choice.
是不是这样做？心理健康好的，那生命过了具体的情况，可能一个什么的专利的修清或者甚至但哪怕那是生命到了学一些都有，是吧？那对专利多呗，你不修一些，你看，专利多，是吧？专利多你不修，专利多对这个也是多的，对生命方面这个是专利的你不修，你情况呢？那么个情况中，你不情况呢？心中你不没啥。 哇，这个是当然多的那个，真方面对吧？挺少，是吧？我把别你是给我，那么学习你给我是吧？
那主要人，那多些吧。So in reliance on the power of joyous effort, we develop the fifth mental state, which is called aiming. So at this point, on this stage, then our mind can stay on the objects of observations for a much longer time already. So at that point of time, our joyous effort is powerful. Our mindfulness and vigilance are powerful as well.
我主要是根据的时候，那地方说，根据说，我主要是根据说。 那这个的话，对于开心的话，这个基因是多现在对
懂的
啊，我主要是好像我现在对这个基因的分析的也是是，当我说按照根据说的，等我把多少的，你弄的那么多的啊，你是的话，都是你全部是我在他上班根据做别的这样嘛做。 就是外面怕，也是一般多，让我进入个报复的时候，
跟住一道比，
我跟你说对了，是吧？跟你说对了，就是工作的理念啊，成本呀，跟你说对了，就是把后来的这个起码报复的也是，报复的就当做当了我马也是，那么的也是当了我这个马也是。
In reliance on the power of joyous effort, then we are able to abandon even the subtle impulsive thoughts and secondary afflictions. Yeah, so six mental states pacification arises in dependence on the power of familiarity.
当然，他都对解放的嘛，他看到他哪里好了嘛，也现在是解放第一起来的，都一样嘛，现在是解放第一起来是吧？当然，他这个是哪里可怕的是吧？结果解放可能是起来是吧？这个到底看是吧？当然这个是关键个是问题多，你这个可能也是你的想是吧？这个人基本多少现在的工力啊，我。但这个工业我记得是吧？这个是吧？
工地也不叫诶，
工地这个会变的工地全部的是吧？一般都这个工地我记得是多少
Yeah, so number six, mental state classification arises in dependence on the power of familiarity, and basically it means that we have developed great familiarizations with the concentration practice. So regarding for joining the nine mental states with the six powers, then a different text might explain slightly different. So however, this way of joining six powers with the mind mental states is similar. The source that I referred to is similar to the Lam Rim text.
另外个，你讲的你几项的，它是你的，当然了，你这个它的这个你去做是吧？你这个做是吧？你这个做是吧？你去做是那个国家就是吧？他现在好吧，然后一定上是吧？或者上，然后现在你不定，反正这个地方我们地方哪去我看看，你这个做是，就是我们地方哪去，也这个那个是你或者心里觉得我们地方哪，别人都这个别人我听不懂，你这个也让自己是吧？你这个做是，你这说的，你说这个你做的这个我理解不了。简单地方的是吧？简单地方，你这个做是别人对国力全部这个现在去我们这边东西，你搞个恰才，那开始有这个做，那懂是吧？这个做是呢，你把是我们开发去，你讲到你啊，那个地方的，是吧？这个国力啊，现在你把两大国力啊，两的国力调的，那个给了呗，我们调的去了我们这边东西的，有确实可能，是吧？那这个没系统运作啊，自己单位是自己的，可能做什么的，做什么呢？可能话，
对，那你基本上
是吧？现在领导到哪里？
And this number six power, the power of familiarity, and then in some texts, instead of using the word power of familiarity, they use the word power of mixing. Power of mixing. So when they explain this power of mixing, then they say the mind and the object of observations are mixed. The mind is able to stay on the object of observation for a long time, like the mixture of milk and the water. So it means that the mind and the mind can stay for a long time on the objects of observations, like the water mixed with the milk. So and then to explain the power of mixing. So this is in terms of meaning, they are the same, whether it is called power of familiarity or power of mixing. So if you use the term power of familiarity, then you basically repeatedly familiarize yourself with the concentration practice. So your mind continuously focus on the objects of observations. So due to this familiarization, power of familiarity, then you develop the number six mental state classifications, or you can depends on the power of mixing, and that your mind stays on the objects of observations for a long time. So you repeatedly mix in this way that your mind and the object of observations becomes like the water and the milk. Then in terms of meaning, they are the same.
我们空气质量的话，那么呢，是我们气空气，没有什么因为它的也主要没有去看看， 吧？
Lamrim bị cha
我
được.
拿这个我拿家了，
哦
哦，
哦
我这个刚才我说，那个话，对，刚才是呢，
喜欢接吧.
喜欢什么的话，
好吧.
哦，我， 他
Ừ.
不管怎么样的，就是他的经验的，怎么搞，喜欢的，
Năm nhiên là tiền này.
哦，
Năm nhiên là tiền.
那
Năm là tiền này không?
专业最多，这个这个说这个，那这个我们到，这个话，不到这个，不去摆这个，这个专业最多，就是这个的经验的，到如果的话，平常的话，我这个这个话，而且你学习的，一个咱刚才你把个也是我看的，对了，我跟我学习说的那个，因为这个的。 你哪一个经验的话，建议哪一个是吧？那哪一个嘛修的？那怎么办？也讲，好像你给我哪一，你还替我哪一，我哪一个，我这个哪一啥的？但是你哪一个的话，那看看啊，知道吧？你哪一肯定我们这边的，因为是这个别人没搞的话，对，听说嘛，他不理解什么，一个是。 啊，我说，跟那也做个也不同，可能平时也不做啥，那个环境接也不同，是吧？我那个那也进这个经验里面搞啊，关系也是，那也很关系也是，那我这个就是什么搞不到做，我。
So as it says in the text, specification is to view a distraction as false and specify dislike for concentration. And here Rinpoche quoted instructions on the perfection of wisdom, saying, by seeing distraction as a fault, you pacify dislike for the meditations. So pacification is to view distraction as a fault. So distraction can be due to anger, can be due to pride, can be due to ignorance, and etc. So you view those distractions as a fault, and then you pacify dislike for concentration. So dislike here is a discursive thought. So you dislike for concentration, then you pacify it. So pacification is to pacify dislike for concentration by dislike for concentrations, and then you also view those distractions due to affliction, for example, anger, pride, and etc., as a fault.
那你刚才说的，我不要，我都没过去就是大概是，那我这里这个是怎么说？有一个是是说吧，去看我，也是蛮累的话，你往这个你可能这个是这个体力发生啊，有一个的累的这个，你往这个先硬这个。
你把它说白了。
哦，
练的就把它，你把就把送白对吧？
看看，这个多很多的多钱
啊？
我给你
啊，这边多了点点先送白的是吧？
哦，这个送白的习惯，
你唐人的唐人哦，就第几日是为干嘛？你这边多了。 So, in reliance on the power of mindfulness, one accomplishes the third and fourth mental state, which is patchy placement and close placement.
我在听过的，是吧？听过的主要是你，都听的我把主要应该听过。 听过的嘛，喜欢听嘛，主要是你是吧？听过。
我喜欢听，喜欢听吧。
我喜欢听的那个，听嘛，这个是看，是吧？
In reliance on the power of vigilance, one accomplishes fifth and sixth mental states, which are taming and pacification.
这个人吧，就是我家人是吧？我怎么写？然后那个说，哦，读了这个。
Istilah tanggi ini di kata Dubai ini di Tibet. Same Dubai ini di Tibet lah tiada ni.
最主要的，买的，不是那么的，你知道吗？不是那么的，我知道。
Maksud tandu di nambah siwa cewa di tandu lima masuk lagi. Ah?
number one.
Huh?
Number one.
Number
Sini kuat.
sini kuba te tando le matonga tu angbo ine te semba joba ro iba te gyundu joba sumba te lende joba iba te niwa joba ngaba te duwa jeba dang duwa te shiwa jeba nama shiwa jeba ngo tu te tando chi yo mare tando chi yo mare te jibe tok te sumi mbae jo 제사장이
Kalau sini timba wa. Kalau sini timba nama cuma sih. Chasih dah ini tu. Timba ini langsung. Supaya tak tua kacau. Wah, dia chasih timba dia. Timba nama cuma sih. Timba buat itu. Wah.
semba ngaba dang kuba duwa jeba dang shiwa jeba te ini sheshingi topla te ne ro ayo ini di namba shiwa jeba te namba shiwa jeba te di jibe topla te ne yeah, so I correct myself. Fifth mental state is taming and sixth mental state is pacification, right? So these two, taming and pacifications, are developed in reliance on the power of vigilance. So the number 7 mental state, complete pacification. So this arises in reliance on the power of familiarity.
Kalau kanda sini jebak antara sini tiga orang buat ini begitu. Kalau tu semua jebak itu dapat sebelum selesai. Kanda, wah ini jebak. Jebak itu tiga jebak itu dia orang tiga ini hidup buat. Kalau jebak itu kita mana itu guna buat. Ini jadi kita itu mana sih? Tapi dia itu yang jadi sudah sih jadi jadi.
Yeah. The number 6, number 7 mental state complete pacification is to completely pacify whatever mental states of attachment, unhappiness, lethargy, sleepiness, and so forth occur. So attachment, unhappiness, and the like should be pacified as they arise during the 7th mental state. So when we come to number 8 mental state, single-pointedness, is to make an effort for the sake of effortless engagement. So during number 8 mental state, we need to make an effort, or we need to apply effort. However, we do not need to apply a strong effort.
Sini jebak kanda, insyaAllah, itu juga masih. Itu juga sini jebak mata jebak bersih tua seperti ini, jebak ini.
What is it?
Jebak itu itu.
是为了电波。
他这个提供真的是是吧？但现在是结果的行的，结果的吸进妈妈去的对吧？完了先把的结果行的结果的吸进，那这样妈妈是对我们哪里的？结果的提供我们去了就不了啊。嘛，但是结果行的，结果的吸进，那个也有过去。그러니까 시민이나 이들 아마시 거지. 이게 무슨?
나
시민이 뭐 아마시 거지. 그래서 이거는 시민이 다 개척 못하고 개척 못하고. 맞아. 내생이 개발가. 이 개발가 간다. 일단 이제 제가 시민. 이 사람.
또 되니에. 덴바당 시신기 또 라테네 얘기요로. Yeah, so we develop number 8 mental state, single-pointedness, relying on the power of mindfulness and vigilance. So basically, at this point, during the number 8 mental state, we need to apply the effort of mindfulness and vigilance.
现在的话，我才是这个，这个是嘛，咱们是基本基本的，但是你这个我也是，这个是通过学的是你是嘛。
So then we come to the number 9 mental state, which is called even placement. Some translate it to balance placement, even placement, or thing in equipoise. So number 9 mental state in this text is translated as even placement. So even placement can also be translated as a concentration that is single pointed mind of the desire. I repeat, can be translated as concentration of single pointed mind of the concentration that is a single pointed mind of the desire. Concentration that is a single pointed mind of the desire. So sometimes can be even translated. There's another word for this even placement. Another word for even placement. So when we read number 9 mental states, then we have gained much control of our mind already. So we apply a little bit of effort, then our mind can stay on the object of observation for a long time.
今天不过的讲，当然这是，但现在不管去到我们大地方能下来，现在去到我们地方能去，必须在动这个人手上的，那这个都万平方，这个都什么的。那现在不过的这里当然现在我看到他们几个家长，然后我们今年不了嘛，今年他好像这个天气也是结果有的话，但他们现在我可能看不吧，那肯定今年不过的是个现在。也是对你定义的时候，也是自己的习惯。
So this 9 mental state, even placement or concentration that is a single pointed mind of the desarium develops in reliance on the power of familiarity. So during this state, our mind stays on the object of observation. Is like the water mixed with the milk. The water mixed with milk, so it's something like this. Then it is like this, sorry, it is something like this. So even though we reach the 9 mental state, even placement, we haven't achieved become abiding yet.
当然是你个爸爸的讲的，做同样的去做，我平常去，幸运的，好吧？这个当然是做，是你个爸爸那么的幸运的，好吧？也是我们幸运的，好吧？对你去多呀，进步的，也是我们。对于多的进步的，运用上的，我看对，现在我们发现变多人少，是吧？这个我看这个也是，在然后现在然后说嘛，到也是嘛，然后在然后新的然后好吧，然后他们在今年的现在然后他看出来了，是吧？系统，但这然后他们到底想的是什么？我他们到底是。现在你把这个我看这个能跌出来，你跌出来你这边也是。
你得拖出来一下啊。我放心。你拖不到。
是啊，我拖不到。拖到这里也是，也是那个吧。拖不到也是直接落到这，你把它，因为我这个能跌出来，这个关键是什么
생리 기반이나 yang dia ramang ko bata bo be. Yang ramang ko bata.
가루에서 스니 집어가. 스니 그거는 이치고다. 스니 집어가 가다. 예. 가다 된다고 아마 싶지만 쓰고. 시력이 몇 번씩 전부 제목 받듯이. 가루에 맞지. 아 스니 그거까지 계속 계속 내가 계속 좀 제목 봐. 나는 계속 제목을 받으면 자 많이 잡아놓지. 성공하고. 많이 좋아. 많이 좋은데 성과시가 있고 막 그러고 시스템을 그런 데 좋아. 이나 참 모르겠어. 그래서 그거
During the 9 mental state even placement, then our concentration is free from laxity and excitement. So we do not need to apply effort. During the 9 mental state. And we are able to stay in concentration for a very long time. And it is as if we have gained control over our mind. during the eight mental state, then I say that we gain control over our mind, right? So it is like gaining control over our mind. So as compared to number 8 mental state, let's say 9 mental states, let's say gaining the power over our mind is stronger than number 8 mental state. So when we reach when we gain calm abiding, then that is when we can actually gain control over our mind. So before achieving calm abiding, for example, 9 mental state, then it is like gaining control over our mind. So we have it is like gaining much control over our mind as compared to number 8 mental states. So this even placement at this point of time, then we say that we do not need to apply effort, right? So then it is like reciting Om Mani Padme Hum. So you do not need to apply effort to recite Om Mani Padme Hum. You can just recite it effortlessly, right?
아마 신이 제가 뭐가 되나 이 제가 가서 완전 신이 개발 같은 것도 이거 그냥 완전 차 쉽게로 차 실력 이거 그냥 차 실력 이거 완전 차 소들한테 앞에 좀 해서 차 소들아가 앞에 같은 개발이나 유튜브에서 차 소들아 차 소들아가도 이거 그냥 차 소 쉽게로 와이나 차 소들한테 세기가 같은 게 아니고 그거에 개발 같은 게 와, 이게 그래서 세미 고마가서 게 이것이가 최시간 가거든. 최시시는 시간 가거든. 무슨 어떤 제가 되는 거. 시간 가서 맞는 게 되는 거 봐. 그래서 제가 가서 그 누구 와.
So the difference between number 8 mental state and number 9 mental state is number 8 mental state is if we were to divide one day into 4 parts, so into 4 parts, then our mind can stay in the state of single pointedness for 3 parts of a day. So if we were to divide a day into 4 parts, so one part will be equals to 6 hours. So then 3 parts of a day, then it will be like 18 hours, for example. So our mind can stay in the concentration of single pointedness for 3 parts of a day of 18 hours, for example. Then the 9 mental state is we are able to stay in concentration, single pointed concentration of the whole day. So this is the difference between 8 and number 9. And number 9 mental state, we do not need to apply effort. And number 8, we still need to apply a little bit of effort.
아마 신이 그거 그 임종 하시는 거는 시나고 그 시바리스 나오고 그 시바리스 나오고 내가 시나고 터봤다고 시 나오고 간다. 그래서 그냥 주제 가지나 아까 신이 그거 가서 맞다. 이것도 같은 게워요. 이것도 그냥 서로 봐요. 그래서 이것도 뛰어나서 뭐 이렇게 야 신도 거리다. 이거 신이 빠지 제대로 해서 내가 시원하게 이거 네가 이래서 여기 내고 얘가 여기 서 방법이나 아까 스모 뭐 다요 뭐 이빠데가 가다 다시 되잖아 이거 해서 간다. 그래서 내가 가기 제목 나 현장 때야 이거 바퀴 요거 좀 되게 제발 시기가 되게 제발이야. 되게 제발이라 그냥 이게 뭐 누가 이랬어. 그거 봤어. 나 간다 하면 돼. 빨리 가도 되잖아. 나 가게 주어 간다.
Yeah, even though some text says that the 9 mental states, during the 9 mental states, one has already gained power over one's mind, has already gained power over one's mind. So, however, we have to understand the statements in some texts saying that one has gained control or power over one's mind. It means that it is similar or is like one has gained control over one mind. So during the 9 mental states, we do not need to apply antidotes. So even if we were to apply antidotes, then it will become an obstacle to our concentrations. So what we should do during the 9 mental states is we just let our mind to rest at ease. So to rest at the natural states or natural natural state or natural states. Let our mind remain in its natural states without applying any effort to apply antidotes. If we were to apply any antidotes during this state, it will become an obstacle to our concentration. 谢谢。So today I briefly talk about 9 mental states concerning with 6 powers. So in coming class, I'm going to talk about it again so that we have a better understanding and we have a clear understanding about 9 mental states, 6 powers. Today I'm not going to talk about 4 tensions, so I will stop here. If you have any questions, you can ask now.
Yeah, Geshila, Kashidele, Ken. I have a question here. How do we know that we have successfully control in our meditation? Is it maybe Geshila can elaborate, explain a bit on that.
How to control in meditation means that our mind focus on our.
Yeah, how do we know that we have successfully meditate and control over our mind?
Over our mind.
Yeah, I asked this question is because I know that there are some meditators, they are meditating for decades. Some they have a very clear mind, even though in their daily routine, not only at the meditation period. So, and also some meditators that also I have talked to, it seems that they have not, how would I put, maybe they have not conjoined their meditation, the calmness into their daily routine. So meaning during meditation period, they are very calm. They can do single pointedly, no issue. But when it comes to daily life, right, they are a bit klangabot like that. Yeah. So I want to know the real meditation. How is it like what I say? If let's say we really have control over it, then it actually it has to conjoin in our daily life.
其實來緊啲空氣調一啲嘅，我媽人哋開始 ，thank you 呀，我媽開始那啲，啲講幾比較啦，生命怎麼學會有的，像生命習慣有的，咁樣讓啲認真嚟當行呢，因為點乜嘢嚟啊啲幾比較啦，生命怎麼有的，咁樣心路當當怎麼學會有的，讓習慣有乜嘢。ini yang gomba kashi gi ini gong gyawe ka la sim shiwa yo bache sim yang zang ma yo bache ini yin yin le ang ne ini yang di ni ma da su su gi le ga chi ka la di ka da ji do gi ka la ini yang di chi ka la ni sim yang zang ma shi da me bache yang gong ha shi da me bache shi wa ya shi da me bache chi da ne yang ka da di ji di gomba ni do yo ra gomba ji gom giá về cao là thằng chế độ bị cao là xem yang xí vào有把chế, người ta chế về cao là yang xem xem sang mà đã vô này tiếng tảng ba thì 有把chế, yang cũng mà xin là gì cái, yang cũng giá về cao là xem xí vào 有把chế, ini chế độ bị cao là xem xí vào其他没把chế, anh yang đi người ta chế về cao là yang đi心情差不多或者差个医生，其实你往做嘅工的养不用呀他叔叔嘅心的让往拖把看的心有为啥？
Sottotte boca still sing in particular dena to be to batida and some of the bina some 所说进攻没那晓得不多，晓得不多。我现在我后来第三我去的当我的我见了，这说说的，那细细的别人让他这个接触过去，有些这说的话我的是吧？他们快我们的，当我这边来，是我看现在在这个时候，到网上写的、也在写的、提到的、然后的，我是摄像头了，是吧？这点这个地方达到是然后他重要的。
你想嘢同 rim 啲你哋下個靠我有咯，所以我把啲樣其實先你估啦，講你把啲你哋下個嘅話都想嘢講咩啲靠我有咯，想嘢講些有咯，想嘢講些下個啦，你想嘢講些下個啦，啲靠我有咯，
我们那个以前我们好几个啥，
所以講些咯，
我好几下我们了，
嗯，
还我们今年是进了大户了，也是是年是有的就为那户了，大户。
jadi tanda kung kaya ikaw latang jeto ini ande same siwa yo batang ini jeto de same siwa me ba ina yang kewa yore
我结果我也是，反正这个结果我也是嘛，我是妈妈的我上嘛差不多了，我参加了没时候，我参加的，你报了就我就跟我这边人生的，希望的是嘛，他们能抢没事，然后就我嘛这个就突突就让他光这边人生3万没事，然后3万没事，我这就我怕是呢。谁开始忙不好生意？那小年那我那个，说到小忙不起，来了鸟，那生意样，那把那个小不小，你瞧的，那我家的生意嘛，他妈的，第3万那个小，妈的3万那个，结果有的，你接有的那个，你都对吧？我接的。是妈妈过来吃完饭，他说的，就是我就是忙不长，就吃嘛，因为呢，现在嘛，那健康或者干嘛就是，那你通通的话，那就是说，我觉得现在咱们有个通通的下面2个农业工，然后咱们下，然后我们咱们调了个没什么。
so yeah so yeah, so how say when we say, when we talk about how do we know that we are successful in our concentration or meditations, then it refers how to you have to track your own concentration or check your own meditations. It's very difficult to gauge others' level of meditation or level of concentrations. So if we relate these 9 mental abidings, 6 powers, and etc., in relation to ourselves, then if we applied it, then we can see the difference. When we are on the first state, for example, first mental state, mental plane. So at that point of time, then we focus our mind. We focus our mind on the object of observation, right? So sometimes we are reminding ourselves that while reminding ourselves to be careful with distractions, we get distracted. So at that point of time, that is during the first mental states. So as we proceed or progress along the 9 mental stages, then we'll realize that when we reach the 9 mental states, we just think about, we need to focus, we need to do concentration practice. So just these motivations alone, then we focus our mind on the objects of observations. Then we do not need to apply efforts. However, our mind can stay on the objects of observations for a long time. So at first, you can only meditate. Your mind can focus without any thoughts on the objects of observations for only 4 or 5 minutes, for example. Then you should, when you still have this clarity and your concentration is free of thoughts, so then you should pause your meditations. So at the beginning of the meditation practice, you should do several short sessions of meditations. If you were to lengthen your meditations at the beginning, if we were to lengthen it to 1 hour, for example, so then it's very difficult to have a concentration that is free of all. So if you will lose the clarity. For example, if during the first 4 to 5 minutes you have clarity in your concentrations, but because you do it for 1 hour, so you will lose clarity in your concentration after the 5 minutes, for example. After 5 minutes, then you lose your clarity in your concentration, for example. So, 其實呢啲明顯嘅其實啲公司呢啲客戶係靠唔住咯。yang sometimes like don't carry 嚟時話有個嘢講嘅，你都會夾數咧時話咩話就會啦。呢啲嚟靠唔住咯，公司樣強烈吧。因為是咩呢？Yeah, so to know whether like some meditators during meditations, they have calmness in their meditations, when they come out of the concentrations and when they deal with the daily routines, they become very galang kaput and etc. So it's very difficult to gauge this level of concentrations. So what we should, unless you develop supernatural powers of clairvoyance that knows others' mind, if not, then what we should do is to relate ourselves to this, check ourselves against these 9 mental bindings.
This is how it is. The picture that was not there, that was after
So just to look at the appearance or outer appearance, then it's very difficult to tell which level of concentration or how successful he or she is in his or her practice of concentration. So we ourselves have to practice meditations or do meditations or develop concentrations. So when we have developed some, when we have some developments in our concentration practice, then if we were to ask others, another meditator, for example, so what kind of laxity or excitement you experience, and how do you stop the arising of laxity or excitement, and how long can you stay in your concentrations without distraction, and etc. So by asking questions, then you can roughly guess which level of concentration he or she is on. So other than that, then just by outer appearance of doing meditation with their eye closed, or when they deal with daily works, for example, then it's very difficult to tell by this outer appearance.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Still got time or not?
Still got time, yeah.
Okay.
Here?
About the object of meditation, earlier on, Geshe-la was saying, we develop until it's very clear. No? It comes to our mind very clear. This object of meditation, when you say become clear, is it a meaning generality, or it's a spontaneous vision already? It came as a spontaneous vision.
Spontaneous vision, as in you can see the object, you can see the actual object.
You close your eyes in meditation, the object appears to you. Is it that way? Or it's just a meaning generality? That means we look at the picture, then we meditate, we know the picture is like that, we just based on that picture, that's all. Nothing comes to the mind spontaneously. When we talk about spontaneous vision, means that the Buddha image, actually you close your eyes, you still can see.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you mean the spontaneous vision means the Buddha image, when you close your eye, you can still see the object, right?
No, it will
there is a
come.
spontaneous
At first,
vision.
the spontaneous vision is like that. It doesn't come immediately. And sometimes you meditate, it will appear to you. Like the tantric will call it pure vision, spontaneous pure vision. Is it we have to reach that level, or it's just a meaning generality?
Meaning generality of the object, you mean?
Of the Buddha image. Meaning when because in the during Geshe-la did teach the object of meditation for shamatha, example, a Buddha image. We talk of the upper part, that means the face, the upper body like that, but we concentrate, let's say example, I concentrate on the face, take a look, then I close my eyes and meditate. After some time, when you talk about until the image appear to you very clearly, is it just a meaning generality image? That means from our mental, from our mind, we have this duplicate image coming from what we see from a picture. Then we can visualize in our mind. The other way is the image come to your mind so clearly, that means it's a spontaneous, pure vision.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,其實啦，即啲聖米巴啦，啲處度講一啲咯。呢樣做啲寫出嚟個啦，啲其實啦，我咪寫中文話。呢樣做啲寫出嚟啲，你啲米巴啲寫波寫嘅喎，寫能夠啦，寫波寫嘅喎。呢啲米巴啲樣我做聖講咪咁啦，米巴啲樣。米巴嘅全字啲啦，先這字度呢啲同個啦，但米巴啲寫習慣難先能夠啦，但是呢，講嗰啲下講有咯，然後做啲下啲話就揾啲大隻，然後做啲米巴嗰啲米中嘅什麼當埋啦，嗰啲강샤話啲米巴嘅全字，然後啲古巴嘅全字啲啦，嗰啲什麼當有嘅，樣呢，做nature寫啲。yang nang zo di xie si ban nang xing nang ba nang ma nang ba du kene di nature yo ma is then nature se de yang wen ji di kong di zi na di hu ba gi wen ji di sem nang lo la se won na ya de ji wo na yang na di xie si ban nang xing di nang go yo na nature se cha se de
nature de ta no te to xie si ban nang xing de se bo te看我的谁家的我理解了这个生活，谁家的我理解了这是，语音的另外什么语气的一个生活，我的谁家喜欢的有点语境的语境我的话，社交的话，你社交语境的角度，家庭语境，或者当或者什么方。或者放到张望语境或者张望语系的现聊聊的吧，这聊的现的我看，那张望的天气和马进来反应吧，这可能的你可能的张望的或者起点或者张望，语境我也是我，但你确实我的嘛，就张望通过呢是第几个能够get出来，你就是第几方式，你张望会个了。那是天嘛，这个搞点嘛，这个样子如果不那，这个那什么如果能想明白，那等于咱们他们那第这个我这个这个那是另外的，那讲的你看啊，你介绍的嘛是点五年，你想是点五点去，我是那么嘛，我是那么嘛，你介绍的都已经完了什么意思？已经被有的什么道理？对， 세부 이제 그런 데 가서 비슷한 거 우리 뭐야
음,
상당히 뭐가 스페셜하다는 이 세부 가는 저거 있나 그래서 받아야 되는데 어차피 뭐 마케를 정리와
음,
그때 이 세부 저거 있나 세부 가는 저거 있나
음.
스토어에 제가 하는 거 같아요 스테라 마세라 이 말와
음.
이게 컨셉이 있어 이 세부들이 되게 되는 거 이게 세부되는 거
유진 세보여나?
뭐 이게 세부는 이게 세대 가지는 때 상황이 또 있어
남아동에.
이게 그 정말 스타트를 하면 그 상황 세부 가리는 거 되는 거 같은 디파가 되고 또 이게 로지 빠는 이거 세부 빠는 이게 완전 잘라도 뭐 예, 같은 거 나오지 다게나 예, 이거 로지 때 세부 요 그게 때문에 딱 이거와 주요나 그 세부 관에 잘 나가서 정말 더 많아 그 세부 이거와 그런데 맞으면 이 세부는 감세 세부나 세부 뭐라 약간 이제서 보이게 세워서 이제는 이게 상황을 저거는 이거 이거가 나지 그래서
일단 유리 된지 골라 대화 요마로 아깝게. 된지 방법 값을你这样的基本买呢，这样的学习吧，囊性的给我了，
你这一句我觉得那讲什么？上班那个老啥，你看那上班那个呀，上班那个都那那种，
这是吧，囊性的给我了，谁查实？
我嘛比了讲，
有些那家。So when we talk about clarity, so clarity refers to the aspects of it is a aspect of object possessor. So it links to object possessor. So this clarity does not link to object itself. Clarity links to object possessor. It doesn't link to object. So meaning when we say clarity, it means that the mind can see object clearly. The mind can see the object clearly. So it's like the mind is very clean, that so clean or so clear that it can see the object clearly. So if our mind, the object possessor, do not have this clarity aspect, then it will be like if there is a object right in front of you with a bright light, so the object is clearly appears right in front of you, right? But if you have any impairment in your eyes, you still cannot see the object clearly, right? So this clarity refer or links to the object possessor. So you need to have this clarity in your mind that sees object clearly. So so when you can see the object clearly, then you need to develop stability as well. That means your mind can stay on the object for some time. So if your mind cannot, though you have the clarity of your mind, but your mind do not stays on the object and quickly, then you lose that. Your mind do not stay on the object, then you do not develop stability yet. So you need to have, while having clarity of your mind need to stays on the object, and that is stability. So regarding meaning generality of the object and pure visions of the objects. So at first, when you observe the object carefully, then you you let it appear in your mind, right? So then you think about it close your eyes and you think about it in your mind, then that is a meaning generality. So that itself is not enough. You need to develop, the clarity as if you are having a pure visions of your.
Ken,
Yes.
this
Yes.
this is a question regarding the power and correlation to the mental stage. Yeah, so up to the mental stage number 6, that is quite clear in terms of the fact that the last one you were talking about, the fourth power of vigilance. Due to power of vigilance, you can accomplish the 5th and the 6th mental stage. Yeah. But when it comes to 7, I'm getting a bit mixed up, so I need to clarify. So the seventh arise in dependence upon which power? I heard power of familiarity. Then 8, I didn't hear any power. And then 9, I heard power of familiarity. Could you please check with Geshe-la which power correlates to the 7th, 8th, and 9th mental stage? Thanks.
Thank you. Like ini di tangking lagi pun menang sih. Sim ngapa tang sim tu baik na, dengan tu kan jadi sesing gitu gi, iki orang. Sim ngapa tang tu bah. Sesing gitu gi iki orang. Ngapa tang tu bah dia. 1、2、3、4、5、6、7、8。吧。ngapa tu baik na di tu hari lah tiada kiki orang. Di sesing gitu lah tiada ngapa tang tu bah kiki orang. Di sesing gitu lah tiada ngapa tu bah lah kiki orang. Ini di Mumbai na di nama siapa siapa. Tu hari lah tiada kiki orang. Cuma di Tibet tu hero. Nama siapa. Tunju togi. Jadi di tunju gitu lah tiada di sa tumbah tang kiba. Tumbah tang kiba di tunju togi. Ubah di. Yeah. So, I said you got it right. I said sorry. 5th and number 6 arises in dependence on power of vigilance. So, number 7 and number 8 arise in dependence on the power of joyous effort.
Not
And number
familiarity. I thought you mentioned 7 power of familiarity. No,
Di sa tumbah ini di Tibet lah tiada kiki orang marah je lah. Nama siapa. Langsung. Di Tibet lah tiada di sim buah lah kiki orang. Yeah. So yeah, that is correct. 7 and 8, a mental state arise in dependence on power of joyous effort.
Okay.
And 9th mental state arises in dependence on power of familiarity.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just stop here.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure. Yeah. So we stop here.
你继续了嘛？比如说，如果好多人家生活嘛，买的，那种的话，觉得那种上班是很多。
Yeah, so next class I'm going to talk about 4 attentions, and then I will talk about 9 mental abidings again. Yeah, try to make everyone's clear about 9 mental abidings.
在我这里贴吧，挺多的，这样子，
We conclude with dedications. We dedicate the roots of virtue that we accumulate, especially through these Dharma lessons, may be a complete cause for Buddha Dharma to flourish and for all sentient beings to experience happiness. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to all upholders of Buddha's teaching, mainly His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, to live beyond long with excellent health condition, in excellent health conditions, and all their holy wishes and enlightened activities be accomplished spontaneously and spread in all directions. In particular, we dedicate these roots of virtue to our beloved teacher, Geshe Lama Zopa Rinpoche, endowed with great kindness. May the may Rinpoche's holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously, and may the unmistaken reincarnations of Rinpoche be swiftly returned and quickly and continue to turn the wheel of Dharma for the sake of Dharma. For the sake of teachings and sentient beings, so that we will have the opportunity to receive the precious teachings from you again, Rinpoche. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to the world peace, and may excellent happiness prevail in the world. May wars, conflicts, disaster, natural disaster, pandemic, diseases be pacified immediately. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to all sentient beings, especially those sentient beings who pass away, and those who are in a state of suffering. May they quickly be free from the suffering, and may their negativity be quickly pacified and quickly achieve the state of enlightenment. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to those who help others, such as doctors, nurses, and those who help others financially. And may they live long with a good health, good health, and may their good wishes be accomplished instantaneously. Tabe kiwa di tendang jowa kongla kanben da kiwa jisun lo san chaba yi timbe nyingbo rindu se xie shu jian chu sem chu rinpo jie ma ki pan tang ki kyu chi kiwa chama kiwa yang kong ni kong du be wa shu nabe ji da kin ba dang kong du sang bo zeng an de xin de xi ga kong chi su da lo jie kiwa di da dang jie da du mo dong yi da wa rinpo jie ma ki pan tang ki kyu chi yang ba me ba yang kong ni kong du be wa shu ri da wa rinpo jie ma ki pan tang ki kyu chi che ba yang ba me ba yang kong du be wa shu yu yi jie sun du ju be lang chi jie se se kan chen chen de gen cha be mo ten xin ga zo la so de zo xian de lu du shu kan de pe te huang lu ba kan de ju wei san bi yi xin no kan jun su pe ten xin ga zo la so de zo du xie lu du shu den na ge zhen yin rang so lu sang ga wa ye se gu ba jie rang xiang xi ge ge ma lu be ten de ge ba lu be ge le zo yong su zu de tu de me bo jie zhe dang zu be zi zin be wa la shi zhe be guo jia jin su me jie zhe la ma su wa de ge de ma lu ju ye ge jie bo ge wei de da ma ge de wa yi de ga ji de zhe ba zhe be mo du xi wa xi de yi le ma ge zhe xin la dang ge se na ge du ge la bo jie lu me de me yang du sa be zhu ge sang du xie be de niu xie zu da wei wei xin gang de be nang de wa ma lu xi wei ne shi wang de zhe ge zu yi xia be xi de ba du de ju ji